6:30 to 8:30. We need people to help in the crafts booth. We need about 8 people for that. We need people for the concession stands. And then tear down at the end. Usually tear down is taken care of by whoever's left there. So the movie will start at 8:30, but for families, they can go and see all the crafts and robotics. There's lots of things for little kids to do and bigger kids. So we hope you will come out and enjoy that. The movie is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and it is free.
And we're also going to have Bubble Man there too. It's very popular.
So the robotics club will be, there are 2 different robotics clubs that will be there for the kids to see the different things that they're doing. And more games for little kids, but there are some for older kids. So come on out. The movie is free. The concessions aren't, but we would hope that you come and enjoy it. And you can bring your chairs and blankets and have a picnic there ahead of time if you so choose. Some of the families do. It's at 2545 200. It's in the Aldercrest Annex field where they tore down the school. So it may be the last year we get to have it there because they're going to rebuild that school. But yeah, so I hope that we get to see some of you. We won't have a meeting in August because we have National Night Out and we also have the movie. So we're taking a month off, but the board still has to meet and plan for next year. So come August, you can start looking for next year's programs. We'll put them on our website. And members of the board and the community are on next door Meridian Park. So you can get some information from that. Is there any questions I can answer?
The website is meridianpark.info.
Oh,
just as a reference.
Yeah, there are a lot of Meridian parks nationwide. So Meridian Park, I think when I first started looking for it, I was ending up in Iowa and Ohio. So it's meridianpark.info, I-N-F-O. So check it out. And then, was there any other questions?
Well, I guess I was just wondering if I could just take a moment and just do a quick poll here to see if there's anybody who just knows off the top of their head that they would be interested in doing a setup for outdoor movie night, which would be setting up tables and chairs from 4 o'clock to 6:30 on August 27th. Anyone? Okay. Anybody interested in directing parking from 5:30 to 8:30? Okay. Anybody interested in learning how to do face painting? You can learn how to do it ahead of time. Oh, you're interested. Okay. We can talk about it. Okay. And then also, is there anybody who's interested in, likes to work with kids doing crafting? We have somebody who's hugely creative who designs the crafts. And that would be from 6 o'clock to 8:30. So if anybody's interested in any of these things, there's also a few more items that we do at it. Please come and see me after the presentation's over. I already got you on the list there, Rafi.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, at this time, I have the pleasure of introducing the people from Sound Transit. The person I coordinated with is Olivia Rother, back on the computer. The engineer is
project manager.
is what?
Project Manager John Evans.
Oh, okay, I thought you said Roger, and I thought, no, he's not here. And the third person they have here is their government relations
Yeah.
person.
I'm Patrice Hardy. I'm with Sound Transit's Government Relations Office. Hi.
So at this point, I would like to turn the meeting over to them. They have a short presentation, PowerPoint, and then they'll answer questions later. And if you ask questions that relate to the city and the building standards, they will answer them. Okay.
Thank you, Gretchen. We really appreciate the introductions. As she said, my name is Olivia Rother. I'm the Community Outreach Specialist on the project. Some of you may be familiar with Roger Iwata. He's our supervisor. He's been on the project for a really long time. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out and meet with us this evening. Before we get started, I'm going to pass around a little sign-in sheet. This is just an opportunity to sign up for our email list. This is just general updates as they come, especially now that we're in final design. It's a really great opportunity to hear about, for example, the station design meetings we're going to have this fall, and things of that nature. So I'll pass it around. Feel free to sign up if you are interested. And with that, we'll probably get started. So just a quick overview. As Gretchen said, we just are here to provide a brief update. We just entered final design, and then we'll do some question and answer at the end. As Gretchen informed you, we are the staff, and we're going to talk about some involvement opportunities and being in final design. So as many of you know, the Linwood Link extension is a key part of Sound Transit's mass transit system expansion, ST2, which was approved by voters in 2008. We do not have a final budget yet. It will be baselined in final design, but it is projected to range from 1.5 to 1.7 billion. And this expansion, ST2, will include 36 new miles of service to the north, south, and east, which will create more than 50 miles of regional service by 2023. Many of you, I'm sure, have been hearing about ST3. And if you have further questions, I believe Patrice is here to answer those. But basically, a few years ago, the Puget Sound Regional Council announced a staggering statistic, which is that our region is projected to grow by 1 million new people by 2040, which means that we'll have increased population and congestion. And so the Sound Transit Board began discussing the role of regional transit in moving these 1 million new people along with today's current residents. So that's why Sound Transit Board has proposed a broad, ambitious plan spanning about 25 years that addresses some of these most urgent needs. And as you can see, there is a ballot measure coming in 2016. My system is a little crooked here. So back to Linwood Link. This is just a light project background for you. Many of you may be aware of this. It's also on our website. But we began the Linwood Link extension in 2010 by evaluating a variety of routes to extend the mass transit system from Northgate to Linwood. There were many routes considered, including those along SR 99, and then were narrowed down to those studied in the final environmental impact statement. And in July 2015, Sound Transit received a record of decision from the Federal Transit Administration, completing the environmental review of the project and moving us into final design. So the Linwood Link extension, as many of you are likely familiar with, is 8.5 miles from Linwood to Northgate. It is a mix of at-grade and elevated, which means it will just go up and down throughout the alignment. And there, as the transit center alignment, it will move from the west side of I-5 over an elevated platform, and that alignment shift is to allow light rail to align with the Linwood Transit Center, which will be the final stop. So you can see that it's on the east side of I-5 until about Montlake Terrace, and then it'll cross over. John will walk through some of the plans as we get through the presentation. And there are approximately 4 miles of elevated and 4.4 miles at grade. There will be no tunnels associated with this project. There are 1,500 added spaces, parking spaces, over the entire 8.5 mile extension. But there will not be more parking spaces added for a variety of reasons, including, but not limited to, direction we've received from our board to encourage other modes of transportation. impacts to neighborhoods and other such items. So getting into the more specific to your neighborhood areas, we just wanted to show this as this is where Meridian Park sits. And so Linwood Link will be on the east side of I-5, whereas Meridian Park sits on the west side. And that is except for the 185th Street Park and Ride Garage. And now John will walk you through some of the plans.
All right. And we can talk in more detail later. The kind of preface to this is that we're still just in the initial portion of final design, and that can take us up to 2 years. And a lot of what we do in that time is between the preliminary design and the final is really try to reduce and minimize impacts to the extent possible while still keeping the program of the project in mind. So we have to want to do what the voters and the board asked us to do in terms of providing safe and efficient light rail service. But we want to, as we go into the final design, really refine that to make it as good as we can, balancing all the various interests, including public property and private property, and the riding public who wants it to be fast and efficient. This starts off, I believe, Meridian neighborhood starts around 155th. Wanted to show the station at 145th. This is just a conglomeration of lines and squiggles, and that's somewhat intentional because it looks a little bit more detailed than what the design is, and we certainly haven't adopted a final design there. But essentially at 145th, north for about a block and a half, there'll be a station. There's an existing on-ramp, northbound on-ramp to I-5 you're probably familiar with. The city's also looking at doing improvements. The city, not Sound Transit, on 145th on the west side primarily. And so we want to have it be a good connection for people walking and driving to the parking garage there. We want to have adequate parking so that people are parking at the station, or that it's attractive enough to walk to if you're in the neighborhood so that you don't need to drive. And all that's being worked out in conjunction with the city and with WashDOT, which owns a lot of property around there. And the alignment, to the extent possible, we tried to stay within WashDOT right away. WashDOT is the owner of I-5. They have an area that between the pavement of I-5 and private property along the east and west side. We tried to border that strip of land to the extent we could. In a lot of places it's just too narrow, and a lot of places WashDOT reserves the use of that land for further expansion. So in some cases we have to push to the east, and that gets, when we do that, that often involves having to acquire those properties at fair market value for the purposes of the light rail. So here from the station, we come into the station elevated at about 35 feet. The station itself will be elevated. You'll take stairs or escalators or elevators up to this platform level, from the garage level, from the plaza level. And it remains elevated because we have to get over 145th. We don't want to interrupt that intersection. And we remain elevated until we get just over 155th, which is on the right side of the screen. And then we come back down to roughly grade level. The importance, it's not a roller coaster, it has to ride smooth. So we're adding fill or we're cutting to the extent necessary to make it a relatively level ride and allow for efficient performance, etc. What you see in the middle of the screen of the map image is Ridgecrest Park. We you know, there's very strict federal laws about acquiring any parkland. We take a little bit of a strip next to the freeway. That's there's a row of Italian cypress and at the front edge of the parking lot. The city and the park director said we'd really like to improve the parking there. We affect the street, Fifth Avenue there, so what we are doing is rebuilding that street with additional parking for the park. The neighbors have asked for that as well. They are concerned about all the parking in the neighborhood for activities along the park. That's still being worked out with the city about how that would work out. So continuing from there, we're in essentially at grade, cut and fill. We're not on elevated columns or anything. We have a little bit of just a little short bridge over 175th, but from in this section, we are generally following the grade of the existing topography. What you see over here is a realignment of 174 because it goes right next to the freeway sound wall, and we're going to have to replace that wall and push it back. So we have to push back then the street. We have to acquire those properties and rebuild the street so that these people can still get access to their homes. So that's what all that entails. And then this is the beginning of a elevated structure on columns that goes over 175th. And then we are coming back down to grade, approximate grade, we're cutting fill again. And continuing here in this area along the freeway until we get north to about the 185th Street station, where we actually, this is the only place where, wow, it's magically changed. We call it cut and cover, so we will dig a trench. It'll be kind of a cut, and to get under 185th, we'll dig a trench underneath it. That would then just be capped off with a roof rather than a tunnel. So it's just right around the roadway itself where that occurs. And then it's a large cut where the station is. The station will be cut into the earth. We'll go down to the station level and effectively on the roadway level. And then as to match the topography, it levels off and more. Of course, there's a lot more detail. The important thing is the city really wanted the parking garage for the 185th station to be over here at the shoreline center. And so that's where it is. The only place we could put it to fit it without taking the existing surface parking lot is here between I-5 and the roadway here. So this is a steep embankment. And so it will be essentially built on the slope. Part of it will be cut into the hillside and sort of underground, and it will rise up above, probably about 1 story above the roadway that goes along the street there. That road itself will be pushed north a little bit so that it's not over the top of the parking garage. And that's what this is here, is the realigned roadway. Actually, this is the realigned roadway. And then see, we're trying to avoid getting into the track property and so forth. And then this would be rebuilt, high quality pedestrian and bike connection across the 185th bridge to get down into the station, which will be over here. And then proceeds north from there. So 500 spaces there, parking spaces, 500 spaces at 145th. Again, that's a real balancing act. At other open houses, folks have said we were not building enough parking, and we're building as much parking as the budget allows. It's very expensive to build parking. You may have seen the press, people have done various estimates of how much money we're spending on parking and how much it costs per space, but it's tremendously expensive, and that's tax dollars, so we're trying to balance it.
And monitor them. And Sound Transit will be working to minimize these impacts wherever possible and coordinate with those who are impacted. But we also wanted to talk about project benefits, and this is something that I think Don can probably speak to more as well. But as you can see, there are increased travel options, and we really do want to emphasize that by the time that Linwood is completed in 2023, you'll also be able to go to the east side. So you'll be able to go from Linwood all the way to the Overlake Transit Center in an hour, or
We call it Linwood, but for you, it'd be, because that's the end of the line, but this, for the shoreline stations, those numbers you see, you can take roughly 10 to 12 minutes off of each.
Yeah.
So it would be under an hour to SeaTac, under an hour to Bellevue, probably less than 40 minutes to Bellevue.
and so it's going to be a lot faster than a single occupancy vehicle in many cases, and it'll be something that operates 20 hours a day. And then some of you may follow the Seattle Transit blog, but they were talking about ridership, which our latest ridership report just came out and showing that weekday Link ridership is at 65,000 daily boardings, which is up 83% over May 2015. And up even 8% over April 2016. So this sets our records for total boardings at 1.8 million, which will likely continue to set records through October when seasonal patterns usually have a slight drop off. So this is just a quick overview of where we are now. But as of November 2015, when the project was approved, the project and budget were approved to move into final design. New consultants were brought on to support this phase, and during this phase will be engineering design work will be advanced on the trackway stations and train control systems and public art. One of the key milestones that we want to emphasize are the station design public workshops. These are a really great opportunity to come out and hear more about the project. So we'll talk about those a little bit more. This is an opportunity to come out and talk about things like station naming and updated designs, and to speak directly with the project engineers, the sound specialists, the architects. We are anticipating these for late summer or early fall 2016. More dates will be available. That sign-up sheet I passed around is a great way to hear about this, but we will also do mailings to notify you, and we will be coordinating with Gretchen and other folks to let them know when those are scheduled. But I really recommend coming out to them because it's one of the best opportunities to provide your feedback. And one of the items we're going to talk about at those meetings is SD Art, which is an opportunity for you to share what your community feels like with the artists and help to really develop what the station art will look like. So with the next few minutes, we're going to run through a quick video which shows the full alignment. We'll just take a 1 second.
Welcome to Linwood Link, one of several Sound Transit projects extending Link Light Rail service in the Puget Sound region by 2023. In April 2015, the Sound Transit Board selected the final route and station locations for extending light rail service between Northgate and Linwood. When service starts in 2023, riders will enjoy frequent, reliable service between South Snohomish County and the University of Washington, downtown Seattle, the airport, and the east side. A trip from Linwood to downtown Seattle will take 28 minutes. Starting at the future Northgate station, the alignment will head north along the east side of I-5. In this video, you'll see the final route selected, including station stops and locations for the 8.5-mile project. Linwood Link will carry an estimated 63,000 to 74,000 riders each weekday by 2035. Trains will run along the Interstate 5 corridor between Northgate and the Linwood Transit Center, with stations also at Northeast 145th Street, Northeast 185th Street, and the Mount Lake Terrace Transit Center. Here the alignment is elevated to avoid reconstruction of the current intersection at Northeast 130th Street. Infrastructure will be provided to accommodate a potential future station at Northeast 130th Street that is not included in the current plan. The alignment continues northward on an elevated structure between I-5 and 5th Avenue Northeast, adjacent to the Jackson Park Golf Course. The next station is located just north of Northeast 145th Street in the city of Shoreline. This elevated station will feature a park and ride garage for about 500 vehicles. The existing northbound freeway on-ramp will be relocated to accommodate the station and parking structure. More than 2 miles of existing noise walls between Seattle and Shoreline along I-5 will be relocated and rebuilt to accommodate the alignment. This section of the alignment will run at grade with retaining walls on either side of the light rail track adjacent to I-5. The alignment continues north along I-5 before passing over Northeast 175th Street. The station at Northeast 185th Street on the east side of I-5, along with about 500 new parking spaces on the west side, will support the potential for future development on either side of the freeway. At Northeast 195th Street, the pedestrian bridge will be replaced because of construction. Crossing into Snohomish County, the elevated alignment passes next to the Gateway development site, where plans are underway for future transit-oriented development. The elevated Mount Lake Terrace station at 236th Street Southwest will serve the existing Mount Lake Terrace Transit Center on the east side of I-5, making it easy for bus riders to transfer to and from link trains. Continuing north, the alignment will cross over I-5 to travel at grade along the west side of the freeway. Again at 220th Street Southwest, this project will put infrastructure in place for a potential future station, laying the groundwork and increasing the potential for future transit-oriented development. The extension continues north into Linwood, crossing over 212th Street Southwest. Curving west, the alignment crosses over the Interurban Trail and an Edmonds School District transportation facility. The alignment ends at the existing Linwood Transit Center, seamlessly connecting one of the busiest transit centers in the region with link light rail service to Seattle, South King County, and the east side. The elevated light rail station at 46th Avenue West will have easy access transit center bus service and parking. Current parking capacity will be increased to nearly 2,000 spaces, including a new garage. Buses serving the transit center will still have direct access to I-5 using the existing ramp. Light rail tracks will continue just north of the transit center station to allow trains to turn around at the line's end. This would also be the starting point for potential future light rail expansion north to Everett, which could be included in the Sound Transit 3 ballot measure for voter consideration in November 2016. For more information about the Linwood Link extension, sign up for email updates or visit the project site online.
So that's a lot of information all at once. If anyone is interested in watching the video again or anything like that, it is posted on our website. And I'm happy to send that link or follow up if anyone has further questions about that. We'll go into some question and answer now, but just for your reference, this is some contact information for the community outreach team. So there's Roger Iwata, and I will be specifically focusing on Meridian Park. But our phone number and email is there, as well as cards that have that information are outside on the table. And with that, we'll go into some question and answer.
So on the 185th Street station, it looks like the parking garage is on the other side of the freeway. Now, did you say there was going to be a walkway? Are we talking a covered walkway?
That's to be determined. There's been some indication that that would be the preferred way to do it.
Absolutely, because I didn't realize it was going to be separate from the station, and I think that in inclement weather, it would be really nice for it to be enclosed. Absolutely.
And as Olivia mentioned, we'll have these open houses, 3 open houses in the fall. I haven't said fall. You said late summer, fall, and we'll have what we call 30% design, and that's when we kind of start to set in stone what things may be. Between 30 and 60 is where we really want to solidify things, but there's some opportunity for more input at that time. We will have vetted some stuff through the city staff and city council, but those meetings is where we'll have a lot more detail to show. And so here, I mean, we don't have the level of detail it'd be nice to have for you, but at those meetings is where we're really having more than you want. And we will be taking your information and applying it and driving it to the extent possible. Of course, we'll take it now too, but it's just that time is a little more formal to take it.
Regarding that garage, you said it was someone's preference, was it the state?
The city of Shoreline.
Okay. I've always wondered why it was so far from the station. And I realized that it might be able to also serve the stadium there at the same time. Maybe that's the thought. But it does seem like it's a little bit of a distance. And do you know approximately how far the walking distance is, or how long it would take to walk from the garage to the station?
I don't, and I have not seen any pedestrian travel around for that. It's relatively close. It's the distance. I better not say it.
That's fine. It may not be that obvious on the aerial, but I think walking across that might take a little bit of time. And it's one of those things where you'll probably always see the train that you're missing. As you're going across the bridge, darn, I just missed it.
The other one will come in
4 minutes.
Yeah, 4 or 6 minutes.
Okay, I have a silly question, forgive my ignorance, but so you get on these trains and then you get off, then what do you do?
Well, so you go to your destination.
I mean, how do you get there? Do you get on a bus or something?
For out here in the more suburban areas, you want to be able to get there either through a bus, a car, a bike, or walk. And then
where
your
is the car
destination.
going to be? Or you're supposed to park your car there and then, I mean, like you going down there somewhere, and then I just don't really get it. You know, like in Europe, it's all real close together and it works really well. I don't see how it's going to work here like that.
So maybe I can add something here. When the light rail line comes on and becomes, a full service unto itself, What happens then is that some of the bus routes that are out, a lot of the bus routes that are out there right now will change, particularly the ones that are going from Linwood to Seattle or Seattle to Shoreline and all that stuff. So those buses don't go away, they get redeployed. And what the redeployment of that serves more east and west connections. So as you get on the light rail here, you might take the bus to light rail here in Shoreline because you'll have more local service. You can get off the light rail in Seattle, let's say you're going to Seattle, and you've got the Metro bus service that runs on all those streets there to get you to your destination, or some of it's even walkable, that's another option. So what we're trying to do as we build this light rail line is to integrate not only what we're doing, but to redeploy also all the bus service that's out there that would be duplicative to our light rail service. So you would, getting places could be a mixture of walking and riding light rail, or a bus and light rail, or you might get on in one of the little share cars in downtown Seattle and take it to a light rail station, and something like that. There'll always be a combination of the two.
And looking at the ridership, I'm not forgetting it, but it's just the most of the ridership will come by, the projections are by bus. The stations, it's about 10 to 20% car and other mode, and about 80% by bus. So that in about 6,000 to 9,000 riders a day. So we have to really accommodate getting buses in there.
Well, I was just curious, because I don't know. The bridge, it goes over the freeway on 185th. How big is it going to be? Is it going to be 4 lanes or 6 lanes or?
It's not, we're not necessarily going to widen the bridge for cars. We're looking at widening it for pedestrians to make
So it's
it
only
more
going to be 2 lanes?
easy to travel.
Is it 4 lanes? I thought it was only 2 lanes.
Yeah,
2.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 2 lanes and then there's 2 bikes.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's only 2 lanes. How are you going to get all these buses and everything over a 2-lane freeway?
Well, we think if you have a bus that comes every 5 minutes or so, that's not
But
really adding that much volume of traffic.
Yeah, but the light rail comes every 4 to 6 minutes, you said, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm just saying, for example,
Yeah.
that's fast service, a bus every 5
Sounds
minutes.
like you're gonna need an awful lot
But I mean,
of buses.
it's gonna be a lot of traffic, you're gonna have all the
You're gonna
cars,
have
plus
more
all the buses
traffic
and
with all
only
the
2 lanes.
buses.
It sounds like
There's
it, but
2 lanes going east, 2 lanes.
No, there's only 1 lane going each way.
So
They're
wasn't,
wide lanes, but they're only.
Well, because you have the bike.
right, so wasn't one of the ideas, and I'm not sure this is still the case, so John, you might have to jump in here, but wasn't one of the options that we were gonna reconfigure the lane so that you would have a turn lane in there at a point, so you weren't impeding traffic that was going
It
east
would make
west?
sense, yeah, because it's just gonna be a bottleneck going over the freeway, it would seem like.
right, you'll see a big difference in the way the traffic is starting to move through the bridge and through the intersections around
But
that.
it's still gonna be just two lanes, 1
There
lane.
may be more, because it's up to the city traffic engineer what that looks like, and she's gonna make sure that that works in a manner that is, the most efficient, it doesn't cause the traffic jam. So you have, your city staff is looking out to make sure that.
But Sound Transit is building the bridge, aren't they, or is it the city?
Is it a
We're
new
looking
bridge?
at how to add capacity to that bridge, and that's
Okay.
how to determine how.
You're adding to the bridge.
Not to plug the meetings again, but totally plugging the meetings again. This is a really great topic to bring to that meeting, because we will be showing slightly different designs at that point and having more information available at that time.
For the existing stations, and I'm looking ahead, the 185th, is there typically a place for a car to pull up and drop somebody off?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking of being accessible from the garage. Yeah, kiss it right. That's
Not
what
my
I'm
favorite
asking
term,
about.
but yeah, that's built into every station.
Because I'm thinking of, again, with the bridge and then that, the access, hopefully it's a lot bigger to that section of I-5.
And with people using Uber and Lyft and all those kind of services, maybe we want to have adequate capacity for that.
And maybe not kiss them.
No,
Not all.
at least not everyone.
Is there going to be some changes to the sidewalks on each side of 185th?
Yes,
Because
exactly
there
where
is a
that is.
sidewalk plus a green area. So I assume, there are trees there also. So is there any changes to?
That's what we need to design, but the idea is to make it a much more pleasant environment.
Yeah, so I was thinking that there's going to be a lot of people walking in that particular street because it's the closest to the
Exactly.
station. So there's going to be a lot of walking and bicycling and people with their kids and the dogs.
Sure.
So I see the street. I'm thinking, I wonder how this is going to be accommodated. Though certain parts of the street has a center lane. There's a center lane. That's why I live there. I never pay attention, but there's
Right.
all of it is 2 lane in each side, or some part of it is 1 lane.
Right now, there's a bike lane on
Yeah, there's
each
a bike
side
lane.
and 2 car lanes, one each direction.
Right,
but no
and then
center
the
lane.
center.
No
There's
center.
some-
Center lane.
No center lane at all, it's just 2 lanes.
But it's really
No,
wide.
but there is a little space where you can go into it, so you can make.
So you have to go on the
houses.
bike lane and go around people, yeah.
I'm talking about the yellow lines in the middle of the street, so you can make turns.
No, there's no center lane.
If I can insert myself here for a second, I'm sorry, I'm Constance Grenier, work with the city as well. And there are a couple of opportunities coming up for all of you to be involved in as well. There was a long-term corridor study on 145th. Something similar to that will happen on 185th as well. It will be intensely studied to figure out what can be done to make traffic move well and be safe for people. I think it's safe to say that 185th is probably not going to look like what we're talking about now, so that will change. The other thing too that I wanted to encourage you to do, and I'm sure many of you have already weighed in on this, the Parks Recreation Open Space Plan is being considered right now. There will be workshops, open houses coming up this fall, and there will be one specifically on park spaces in both these areas, 145th and 185th. And I really encourage you to go and express yourself about what you want to see there, because I think the Parks Department is very open to creating some very livable spaces along both of those corridors.
It looked like on that
Money.
map that it's
That's
taking
right.
out a lot of the stadium parking there. Yeah.
I can't answer, I don't know about that, but I think that there will be opportunities for all of you to find out more about that as well.
2-part question. What was the amount of money budgeted when you vote to set this up? That was a regional vote.
Yeah, this was under the ST2.
Right. And for that, what was budgeted for this, do you know?
It was $1.3 billion. 50% of it is coming from the federal government in the form of a full funding grant agreement.
Second question is, how does the budget stand now for construction?
We are at budget. We haven't exceeded budget.
You almost started to say 100, now I got to slip.
Well, we might actually be, but I don't want to sound overconfident about that.
I got a second question too. Does anybody know right now, what is the percentage of the cost of running these systems that we have now? What percentage of that is not paid by the people riding, but it's subsidized? Do you know that?
It's about 75% that's subsidized, isn't it? We get a 25% fare box recovery off of that, which is similar to the highway system, actually. Because the highway system, if you think about it, you pay your sales tax with the highway system and on gas tax, but that only pays, it doesn't even only pay, it doesn't pay for the operation and maintenance of that facility. And so they have to continually raise gas tax prices for them to just do the operation and maintenance part, but not the expansions or improvements.
As long as the legislature doesn't get their hands into that. But
Yeah, yeah.
Gas tax.
So, I'm sorry, I'm not quite clear about who's paying for the improvements on 185th. And my question is particular to the lighting on 185th. It sounds like there's gonna be a number of people who are gonna be traveling from the parking lot over to the station. And right now, we are hearing a lot of residents in our neighborhood who wanna have streetlights installed, and the city is telling us that there is no money for streetlights. It would really be annoying to us if the city was going to pony up streetlights for this corridor, if we can't have streetlights on other streets.
For the connection between the garage and the station, Sound Transit
Who pays
is
for that?
doing that.
Sound Transit
Project.
pays for that, that's great.
Do we have any more questions?
I have two more questions. The first, I'm wondering as a resident, once it's all completed, what the noise factor is for people living in the area with the light rail. That's number one question.
We have both state and federal noise restrictions that have very strict standards that we must abide by. We have to not only meet the criteria that the highway department requires, so that we can't make, we have to continue to reduce sound to the same extent that the existing noise walls did. But on top of that, we can't also add noise related to our project, separate from the highway, that exceeds tolerable allowances, which, and typically it's very technical, but the measurement require that that you're not, they're essentially built around the idea that people sleeping are very sensitive and can hear everything, and you want to be able to not be able to upset a sleeping person in a nearby residence. And so it's very tight tolerance to try to minimize that. That's why you see that essentially the light rail runs behind sound walls.
Yeah. But I mean, even a lot of us, you can hear when the wind's blowing a certain direction, you hear this whoosh, the freeway noise. Now, are we going to hear it more than we're hearing now with the combination?
The intent is no, and we're initiating sound studies early in our design process and then throughout construction, and once we are it's built, in order to test the design theories about how sound is to be controlled, to monitor that, and to mitigate anything that exceeds that we intended to mitigate. So we're responsible. We're on the hook to make sure that the sound is carefully mitigated.
My second question relates to on I-5. There's just tons of miles where there's cracked. They're not maintaining it as well. It's getting old and needs a lot of repairs. And I'm wondering with light rail, what's the surface going to be like, and how much maintenance is it going to need, and will it be kept up?
With the rail itself, the vehicles on the rail, that's part of our standard operating procedure. We have to be extremely diligent about the quality of the rail structure, because that's the safety element. And for example, every day, every line, the first line is a sweep. It's called a sweep of the system, where you have safety experts out there prior to being passenger lanes. They check the rail along the entire lane. And so those are very well maintained.
I think another good thing to remember too is that even though we'll come in and build a project with the city as our partner, when we're finished with that project, we will be around to hear and to see what the problems are. So if there are traffic problems, we'll be monitoring that. And if there's noise problems, we'll be monitoring that too. We aren't just going to move on to the next station stop.
I don't quite understand what the entity Sound Transit is in terms of, is it a government agency? Is it a private agency? What is it?
It's a government agency. We were created by the state legislature and authorized by the voters of the Puget Sound. We serve the urbanized areas of Snohomish, King, and Pierce County, and we have one mission, and that is to provide high-capacity transit to those areas. Our governing board is composed of elected officials who are either appointed to the board or are serving as they're placed on there statutorily. So we have the Secretary of the DOT, Washington State DOT on our board. We also have the mayors of the largest cities on our board. The county executives are on our board. We have to have members of other transit companies on our board so that we better integrate with all the transit service that's out there. So it's a federated government because the elected officials are appointed to the board, but nonetheless a government.
And it's subsidized by the counties?
So the monies we collect are from the people that are inside the boundary. That's 52 cities that are inside the Sound Transit boundary. And we have a limited taxing authority. We have sales tax some. And we want to make an improvement, like we always go out to a vote. So we have 10 years worth of improvements we're doing with ST2. And then we'll go to the voters again this November and ask for another authority if they're willing.
That isn't combined with ST3, is it?
That'll be ST3 that's out in November.
If ST3 fails and you don't have the money to maintain.
Oh, no. So absolutely. So one of the theories or one of the principles of ST, Sound Transit, is, you know, we fund these projects, they get built, and then we keep enough money to maintain and preserve those systems and operate those systems, and then we roll back the taxes if the voters don't, I mean, we don't need the kind of construction dollars we have today, obviously, if we're not building things. So we roll the taxes back when we're finished, so it's just operation and maintenance and preservation dollars.
Are there any last questions? If not, I'll do another plug for the meetings in the fall. Also, if you think of any questions, you know, you wake up tomorrow, you wake up in the middle of the night, my email is on that card and you're welcome to contact me. It's also online and on the site here. But if you think of anything, I can track that answers for you to the best of my ability.
Do you think you're going to feel when the next meetings will be?
That's a great question. That is driven a little bit by our own internal timelines. And so right now we're thinking probably late fall or late summer, fall timeline.
That's why I have it before Thanksgiving for sure. People have some time. And you know, hopefully before Halloween, but it's up to how fast we can get the designs done and through the city and reviewed by the city.
But once we have the information and available, we will have those. And if you signed up for the email list that I pass around, then you'll definitely get an email update. You should also see a postcard. It'll be on the website. That information will definitely be passed around.
I have a question. Will you ever increase the 500 installed parking, or will all be 500 places?
There would have to be authorization for more funds from the board for that.
Okay.
And from the voters. So if it was something that the voters wanted to pay for, then of course we could do it.
Why is it so expensive? Parking?
The parking structures are just very expensive to build. We have to acquire land to do it, to do a stacked concrete structure.
And they have to meet federal requirements. There has to be a certain amount of ADA, Americans with Disability Act, parking available. So there's a lot of complexities to a parking structure. We do a lot of leased parking. You know, it's one way we try and add more parking. Well, churches don't necessarily need their parking during the week, and so we'll lease from them. You know, there are different options we can lean to get more parking.
That brings up a that I'd seen, people chatting about on, the local social media, which was people had concerns regarding, additional strain on side streets of people parking. What does Sound Transit think about that? Like, what's the remedy? Because it seems like that puts a strain on, like, parking enforcement here at Shoreline and on the neighborhoods and that kind of thing. Stadium too.
Yeah, it does kind of create some of that hide and ride situation. And so we usually work with our cities to make sure that we have better enforcement in the neighborhoods as the system goes up. People learn pretty fast that you can't hide and ride, and you're gonna have to find appropriate parking. But we work very closely with the city on that.
Right. The city is requiring Sound Transit to do an access assessment study that will specifically look at the potential for that in various areas and how to remedy it, how to plan in advance. And then once we're operational, to study it again to see if that's working and if there needs to be tweaks to fix it so that there aren't impacts to neighbors or it's possible.
We have our own transit police too. It's the King County Sheriff's Office, so they're always monitoring that stuff for us as well.
Oh, so they do that. Oh, okay. I wondered like whether that was something that was like an additional burden to Shoreline Police or whether Sound Transit.
No, we have two, actually. We have our paid security force that is kind of the people that ride the trains and monitor all the stations. And then we have the King County Sheriff's Office that also does station and train criminal activity.
I want to throw one out that I should have thrown out years ago, a whole capital bill on that. Simple solution, free market. Your parking strip in front of your house is yours.
Yeah.
You can not use it, rent it, or whatever you have. And if somebody's parking on it, it's trespass, they're gone. Give that idea a thought. Then you don't have to have special stickers, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we really do appreciate everyone coming out this evening and taking the time to provide feedback and ask questions and think about the project. And again, come to the meetings in the fall. If you have questions, please feel free to let me know. And with that, we hope you have a good rest of your evening.
Hey, thanks a lot. Yeah.
So